Hold on.
Let's go.
Hold on. I got to figure this out. You have to carry. Take me off screen.
We'll be seeing you later, Steph. What is up? Back like we never left. Steph's working out some tech difficulties, which of course we didn't do before we went live. But that's how these playoff weeks feel right now in fantasy football. Expect the unexpected. Steph will be joining us here in a second. But we're back. We're back like we never left. We're talking about all the upcoming matchups for Week 16. Week 15 was absolute carnage. So if you happen to survive, if you're with us here today, really, really glad you made it. We don't really have an agenda. We're just going to kind of riff, look through some matchups, answer questions as people hop into the stream and go from there. We got a lot of good games this week. 49ers and the Titans are on Thursday nights. We got some Christmas Day action, Browns and the Packers. And the Colts at the Cardinals, a lot of low over-unders as well. Steph actually mentioned before we started here, no over-unders above 50 points right now. So we should expect another low-scoring week. And the icing on the cake with that is Dolphins and Saints on Monday night, a 38.5-point over-under. So absolutely brutal on that one. But we're going to really dive into these playoff league winners today. You know, last year and in years past, you've had guys like Rashad Perriman come out of nowhere and win you leagues. This year, we've started to see some of those guys rise to the top. We've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown start to break out. We've seen Russell Gage play really well. In this first round of the playoffs, we saw Duke Johnson have a monster game. Tyler Huntley had a monster game. Hunter Henry had a monster game. So we're really going to dive into some of these matchups, some of these stats, some of these scouting reports, and try to find out which ones of these guys should you be rolling back out there for round 2 of your playoffs, and who should you be leaving on the bench, leaving on the waiver wire. Carlos, what's up? Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you. Hopefully you are still grinding in your fantasy football playoffs heading into these semifinal matchups. Here to answer any questions you all have as we move through today. But let's start out while Steph continues to work on his technical difficulties by looking at what happened in Week 15. One player we want to start off and highlight, and I'm sure Steph's going to have an opinion on this guy when he hops back in, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. You look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown is doing in Week 15, had 8 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown for the Detroit Lions on 11 targets. That is absolutely what we like to see. And if you look at what he's done over the past several weeks, this is a trend at this point. Amon-Ra had that game last week, and the week prior, 12 targets. The week before that, in Week 13, 12 targets. So it's 3 straight weeks of 11 or more targets. He gets Atlanta in Week 16. So to me, this is a guy who passes the test. Okay, let's get Steph in this broadcast.
Let's go.
Steph made it in. Don Juan, what's good? Good to see you here as well.
Boy. Representing from the Discord. Shout out to you, Don.
Steph, I don't know what you heard while you were underground there.
I heard it all.
With your tech issues, but let's talk Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know someone you're super fired up about. 11 or more targets in each of his last 3 games, 70 or more yards in each of his last 3 games. He's the number 1 target for Jared Goff. Hawkinson's out. Swift is out. He gets Atlanta in Week 16. We know he's someone we're willing to start, but I want to get into what kind of names we're going to start Amon-Ra St. Brown over in Week 16. So we'll start it out. You know, this is a guy, same last name, so he's right here on my screen. Hollywood Brown. Amon-Ra or Hollywood in Week 16? Who would you go with?
A banged up Lamar Jackson throwing Hollywood the ball against Cincinnati. I want to go Amon-Ra. Detroit plays. Who do they play here again? Let me pull up the spreads. Atlanta. Yeah, that's easy. That's light work. You're putting in Amon-Ra there.
What about T. Higgins in that same matchup? You know, with Hollywood Brown, T. Higgins on the other side of the ball had a really good stretch in weeks 12, 13, 14. Disappointed in Week 15. Would you go Amon-Ra or T. Higgins?
That's tough. I see what really hurts is that the Bengals had that brutal game against Denver. I know Denver's a tough defense. Baltimore's also a tough defense. But I think you got to go with T. Higgins just because of the overall points that they're going to put up. Better offense than Detroit. But that one's really close for me. I love Amon-Ra as a low-end wide receiver too. I think he's in line for double-digit targets again. has had over the last 3 weeks 11, 12, and 12 targets. Like, you can't get any better than that.
Yeah, and Amon-Ra really in these, these 3 wide receiver leagues, these 2 flex leagues, PPR, he's someone that should be in your lineup. So let's go ahead and move on. I'm gonna keep this name hidden, but I'm gonna put you to the test, Steph, on which one of these 2 players you would rather start. All right, we're starting out with player A. You already know this is a little bit of a trap. Player A, over the past 4 games, I'm doing some quick math here. Over the past 4 games, he's been in double-digit PPR performances every single time. He scored 2 touchdowns in his last 4 weeks, and he has 29 receptions for well over 300 yards in his last 4 games. So 7 receptions, 80 yards per game, a touchdown every other week, getting a ton of targets, seeing a ton of fantasy points. Player B, no touchdowns in his last 4 games. He's only had 160 yards over his past 4 games. And he only has 16 receptions over his past 4 games. And he plays a tough Chicago Bears defense this week, where the other one plays Detroit, where player A plays Detroit. Which one of these 2 guys would you rather have?
Oh, man.
Which one are you starting?
Whoever's playing Detroit is probably who I want.
Yeah. I mean, player A was Russell Gage. Player B was DK Metcalf.
Wow.
If you look at the past 4 games, Russell Gage has 2 touchdowns. DK has none. Russell Gage has over 350 yards. DK Metcalf has 150. And then Russell Gage has close to 30 receptions, where DK Metcalf has half of that. DK gets the tougher matchup in Chicago. Russell Gage gets the easier matchup in Detroit. So, I mean, Russell Gage or DK Metcalf in week 16, Steph, I know the numbers point you one way, but does that name value with DK suck you back in, and do you go down with the ship one more time? He hasn't, I mean, his highest scoring game since their bye week in week 9 is 11 fantasy points, and that's full PPR.
The fall from grace for the Seahawks is so brutal, man. Chicago is also a gross matchup. It's not going to be high scoring. Let me see what Vegas has the over/under on that game, but I'm leaning no DK.
Gage.
I'm leaning no DK, man. I don't know who. I don't know if it's Gage, but I don't want to start DK.
I'd go Amon-Ra over DK. I'd go Gage over DK.
But here's the thing: Lockett on the COVID list probably will be ready, but we don't know for a fact. I think if Lockett's out, it's an absolute DK start. It's a 43.5 point over under. Pretty gross. Yeah, I'm not trying to start DK this week.
Fade DK. So this one should be easy from Carlos. Diontae or DK. Diontae Johnson all day long. I wouldn't hesitate on that one. Let's get in Ronnie Daniel. What's up, Ronnie? Glad you are still rocking with us. Week 16 means you're probably still thriving in your playoffs. How do we feel about Josh Allen for week 16? So Buffalo gets the New England Patriots this week. Steph, I don't know if you still have the over-unders pulled up, but I'd be interested to see what that looks like. I'm sure it's low, probably less than 45. But Josh Allen's an every week start for me.
Yeah, you got to start Josh Allen unless you're in a 8 or 10 team league and you have another better option, like a Jalen Hurts. Like, that's the only real way I'm benching Allen. It's a 43.5 point over-under from FanDuel Sportsbook. And this is a home game for New England. So the Bills are on the road. I want to see what Josh Allen has done historically against New England. I know this. I mean, it's a tough defense. We know what New England's going to bring to the table. Last game, he only had 10 points against New England in week 13. In years past, let's just see what 2020 looked like when he was on a tear. He had 32 points against New England in week 16. In week 8 of last year, only 12 points. So there's a range of outcomes here that's very low. But it's also very high. We could see him with that 10 to 12 point game. We could see him with that 30 point game. But Josh Allen's just a guy that you can never bench. You can never bench him. I'm
leaning on the rushing ability for Allen. I know the ankle's a little banged up. Only had 3 carries last week. Hopefully another week of rest gets him, more mobile in week 16. And unfortunately, Ronnie did follow that up. He's actually in the toilet bowl. But look, I respect the hustle. I respect the Dan Campbell attitude, fighting for every single win. We don't go down easy. And honestly, it's good to play through the rest of the season just to stay up to date on what's going on. Hopefully you have some high point payouts and things like that in your league as well. But let's get on to another question from Don Juan, the boy. Najee, a start against Kansas City. This one, to me, another easy yes. And, you do sometimes have to look through the name value. Like we just talked about DK Metcalf being really concerned. That's been a a trend over the past several weeks, though, of poor performances with Najee Harris. Disappointing game against the Tennessee Titans. But let me tell you this. He has been in single-digit fantasy points only 2 other times this season. Week 1, 5.9, played 100% of snaps. Last week, 4.6, played 100% of snaps. So, like, Najee's still on the field, had a very inefficient game against Kansas City. You have to hope that the checkdowns are there from Big Ben. It seems like when Big Ben decides he wants to go to Najee and it's working, he's going to stick to it. And week 3 against Cincinnati, we saw that 14 reception explosion. My hope against the Chiefs is that Najee gets 5 or 6 receptions in this game as someone who is invested in him in my own leagues. And hopefully he gets that touchdown as well.
You got to start him. That's it.
Yeah.
100% snap share. Like, does any other running back get that right now?
Maybe Craig Reynolds, but
the boy, Craig Reynolds. Hey, real quick, Alex, are you starting Craig Reynolds with confidence this week?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. I mean, as long, I take that back.
Deep RB2.
There are some stipulations here. One, DeAndre Swift has to be out. I think we both expect him to continue to be out. I don't know why the Lions would rush him back. I'm surprised, honestly, they haven't shut him down at this point.
Yeah, he should be on IR.
But the one interesting thing that I do have to think about that actually I just remembered, Jamal Williams was on the COVID list. Jamal Williams could be back this week, should be back in week 16 against Atlanta. But even with that being said, I mean, we saw Craig, the boy Reynolds, go for 26 carries, 112 yards last week, also at a target. Even with Jamal Williams back, I think Detroit likes Craig Reynolds. He had a good game. He's a great story, and he's been effective. I wouldn't be surprised to see Craig Reynolds get another 15 carries. Even with Jamal Williams back, maybe Jamal ends up getting worked back in, gets more of the receptions. But yeah, I think Craig is a low-end RB2. I would rather start Craig Reynolds with a healthy Jamal Williams than Duke Johnson against the Saints in week 16.
The more I'm looking into it right now, I don't want to start Craig Reynolds. I was more excited because I also thought I lumped Jamal Williams into DeAndre Swift.
Right.
And the game environment, like, yes, it's Atlanta. They could have a lead again. And I mean, that's why Craig Reynolds had 26 carries after being signed to the 53-man roster 2 days before the game. So I'm not starting Craig Reynolds, but he's a great story.
All right, we got Qui-Gon.
Amon-Ra.
We got Qui-Gon Jinn back here. He has returned.
There
May
he
the
is.
force be with you.
He made it.
We got a good question from John Thompson here.
Johnny
Him or
T.
Jackson? I don't know who this.
Papa John.
I don't know who this Jackson guy is, but I'm going to go with John here.
Yeah, I'll take John. He's in the chat. He's a longtime DMS supporter, friend of the show.
Yes.
Papa John.
Glad Papa John, double Papa John is here with us. All right, we got a good one from Carlos. These are the questions we got to get into. Who should you start in your flex? This is a question before the season. CEH, Jeff Wilson, Devante Parker, or Rojo. Like preseason, this is like so obvious. Like I can't believe we're at the point where it's CEH, Jeff Wilson, Parker, Rojo. But let's break this down. CEH has been losing some work to Darrell Williams. Hasn't really been that great over the past several weeks. Was saved by some touchdowns. He plays Pittsburgh. I don't love that matchup. Jeff Wilson should get the majority of snaps again against Tennessee on Thursday. Devante Parker plays New Orleans on Monday night with Jalen Waddle back, and Ronald Jones plays Carolina. So honestly, across the board, I don't love any of these matchups. This is a close one for me. Steph, I want to hear who you've got first in this one.
Gosh, I hate what I'm about to say. Alex, I know you're a simple man. You see Ronald Jones with no Fournette, and you just circle it. You circle it, and you plug him into your lineup.
That's the right pick.
That's where I'm leaning right now, just because he's going to get the bulk of the carries. I mean, the Panthers' run defense is actually really, really strong. They're 8th against the running back in fantasy football right now, which does scare me for Rojo. Yep. But, well, let's think about this, right? Gio Bernard. Is he active and healthy in the lineup? What has he been doing lately? Let's check it out. That's why we're on the show right now, so we can get into it. Wow. Didn't play a single snap against New Orleans.
He's on IR.
He's on IR. Wait, who else is there? Keyshawn Vaughn?
Le'Veon Bell just got signed.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, 26% of snaps for Keyshawn Vaughn. He did see 2 targets. Man. And Clyde's going up against like 18 other running backs in Kansas City that are all undersized and not that fast.
Think about it this way. I mean, I know it's a different team, different dynamic. Some of the receivers are banged up, but in 2020, there were three key games early in the season that Leonard Fournette missed. He missed week 4, 5, and 6. In week 4, Rojo had 20 for 111. He also added 6 receptions in week 4, against LA. That's 18 fantasy points. The next week without Fournette, 17 carries, 106 yards, 3 receptions. And then week 6, 23 carries, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So last year, it was different because Fournette was kind of the new guy and Rojo was the starter. But when Fournette was out, Rojo was an absolute workhorse. He's going to be far more trusted than Keyshawn Vaughn, far more trusted than Le'Veon Bell. You got the receivers banged up. I think Rojo's the right pick here. The Carolina defense is tough, but I think you go Rojo and you hope for that rushing touchdown, maybe in a 100-yard game.
I think they've pivoted off of Rojo completely in Tampa. And I love what he did last year, of course, right? Those back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. But we haven't seen anywhere close to even his usage when Fournette was healthy in 2020 this season. I'm actually going to go – my final answer here is Jeff Wilson. And I know that's pretty gross. But as it stands right now, Elijah Mitchell – yeah, I'll get into some of his production, but Elijah Mitchell still hasn't played, did not practice. The report came out he has not even practiced today. Recording this on Wednesday right now. If we don't see any positive reports or if it's a confirmed that Elijah Mitchell's out, I'm going Jeff Wilson against Tennessee. They're one of the worst run defenses in the league. And you look at last week, 88% snap share for Jeff Wilson, 21 carries, very efficient, 5.2 yards per carry. I'm expecting a relatively similar stat line against Tennessee. He did have the touchdown. It's whatever. I don't know if we can expect that, especially with Debo getting healthier, Kittle fully healthy and back. We know Ayuk is a touchdown scorer. But 2 for 2 receiving for Jeff Wilson, which you don't typically see from him. He's not a pass-catching back by any means, but that's what makes me excited in a really good matchup, Tennessee and Houston. And we talked about this in our playoff primer. The 49ers have one of the best playoff schedules in all of fantasy. So Jeff Wilson is the play for me out of these 4 options. I like Parker, too, as a flex name. But I'm going Jeff Wilson.
I think the easy one to rule out is Devante Parker, just because Waddle should be back on Monday night, and it's that gross matchup against the Saints, low over under.
Let's talk about that for a second.
He'd be my lowest pick on this list, but really quick, Steph, I will say Jeff Wilson's my number 2. I'd go Rojo 1, Jeff Wilson a close number 2, CEH 3, and Parker 4. And before we get into that, I'm with you. Rojo has not. It's a true backup. It's a true starter handcuff situation this year with Fournette and Rojo. But when Fournette went out against New Orleans, Rojo 8 for 63, really good efficiency on the ground, 2 catches, 8 yards. Arians has come out and said, hey, Rojo's going to have to do for us this year what Lenny did for us at the end of last year. But I like Jeff Wilson as well. Let's talk Saints-Dolphins.
This is probably the grossest game I've seen on paper all season long. 38.5 over-under from Vegas. New Orleans are 3-point home favorites with Taysom Hill at under center. Marquise Callaway is the wide receiver 1. It's got to be Kamara season. And Alex, how has Kamara looked lately? Because I know you've been burned by him in a few spots.
He has looked bad. But I will say last week, I mean, it really was just last week against he looked good a couple weeks ago back from the injury. This past week against Tampa, obviously a really tough run defense. That game was absolutely disgusting. He got some targets in the first half that Taysom was either a little behind, a little ahead of him, all passes that Kamara we expect him to normally catch. But on these halfback options, it just wasn't working out. So I still expect him to get a few targets in this game. Should have a lot more success on the ground against Miami than he did against Tampa. So I'm still starting. Kamara, obviously, no questions asked. But yeah, he's the only hope in this game. But Steph, we got some questions rolling through. Let's get to
a lot of questions. Let's go. Shout out to everybody from the Discord.
Let's talk streaming defenses. I think one of the easy ones for me is Tampa against the Carolina Panthers. That's who I'm rolling with this week. That's my stream of choice. Steph, what do you think this week? Who do you got?
Man, there's just a lot of gross matchups this week on both sides of the ball. I love Dallas defense against the Washington football team.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be on a lot of rosters.
The number 1 defense in fantasy this year. Who saw that coming?
I actually like the Chiefs defense this week against the Steelers because the Steelers are probably going to have to throw the ball a lot. We know Big Ben is declining, probably the last few games of his career, regular season games of his career. He could be forcing the ball into some rough situations. So I like the Chiefs D here. Let's see.
Chargers against Houston. Alex. Chargers against Houston's a good one.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get all the classic.
Philly
whoever's
against
playing
the Giants.
Jacksonville.
I do really like that one. Mike Glennon or Jake Fromm are going to be starting for New York.
Yeah, get excited for this Jags-Jets game. Real quick, Alex, do you want all the pieces in this Rams-Vikings game? It's in Minnesota. It's a 49.5 point over-under. Rams are only 3-point road favorites. This seems like a classic shootout, but then it's like Thielen might be back. That could affect some of the Minnesota weapons.
I want pieces in this game. I think this should be a high-scoring game. I love that it's indoor. The Vikings defense is beatable. My only question would be, can the Vikings establish the run against LA? You expect Ramsey to be on Justin Jefferson. Who wins that matchup? Because I would have thought the Rams in Seattle, I mean, Seattle's defense has been pretty poor lately, and the Rams really weren't able to do that much on them. So to me, it all comes down to, can the Vikings put up points on the Rams, and then can the Rams kind of get back into the groove that we've seen from them over the past couple of weeks? But let's keep rolling here. The Truth, what's up? Jay is here. Good to see you in the chat. Chuck's Corner. He's looking for a tight end in a standard league since Freiermuth will likely be out. Any suggestions for a tight end streamer? I've got a couple in mind. You know who my first one is, Steph. And then I got a couple. My first one's Hunter Henry. I mean, he's probably a hot pickup this week. I know they play Buffalo. I know that's a tough matchup. But we did see a different kind of game script from New England this past week. We saw a game script where they were behind, where they were throwing the ball. And against Buffalo, if Josh Allen could come out and put up some points, we could see something similar in Week 16. So Hunter Henry would be number one for me. And this one, it gets a little bit deeper, someone who's probably available. I think Jared Cook is interesting. If you're looking for a stream, you're typically just looking for someone who has a chance to score a touchdown. And I think Jared Cook, one, he should have scored last week. He dropped on the goal line. But two, against Houston, pretty good matchup. I think Jared Cook should be fine.
And no Donald Parham. Shout out to him. I know he's recovering right now. Took a nasty spill. We all saw that one. But that will impact Jared Cook from a fantasy perspective. Some other names, especially if you're in a deeper league. Evan Ingram. He's been okay over the last couple of weeks. He's a guy that you plug him in, hope for the 5 targets and the touchdown. Takes him into that double-digit range. Ricky Seals-Jones, he's coming off a really gross game, burned a lot of people in Week 14 in that Dallas matchup. Now on the road, plays Dallas again. I think he is a guy, though, that you can plug back in. That tight end spot in Washington has been fantastic. Regardless if it's been Logan Thomas or RSJ, that's a guy that you can plug in a spot start. Austin Hooper, supposed to be back against Green Bay. He's not pretty. But
James O'Shaughnessy. What about O'Shaughnessy, Steph? You want to talk about him?
I was debating on throwing him out there. I don't want that on my name, even though he has led the Jags in receiving yards over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If you're desperate, you can plug in O'Shaughnessy. But in a PPR league, I prefer O'Shaughnessy, not in a standard.
All right, Qui-Gon, how are your running backs doing? Barkley, Cook, and Jevante. Okay, yeah, I'd say they're doing pretty good. Don't know if you should play more receiver. Cup and Renfro on your bench is CD and Judy. Okay, well, that does get interesting. I'd probably play CD Lamb over Saquon.
Really?
Yeah, I would. I mean, Jake Fromm or Mike Glennon are going to be starting for New York. And CD Lamb, I mean, he's a top option. I know he's been disappointing, but I'd go CD over Saquon. I think you keep the rest the same. What do you think, Steph? Or I guess maybe CD over Renfro and keep Saquon. The battle to me would be between Hunter Renfro and Saquon in that last spot.
Saquon is appealing to me because of, well, one, he looks like finally healthy. Even though he's questionable right now, showed up limited today in the practice report. But if you look at his target totals, that's where the appeal is. He's had double-digit carries every single week since week 12, 13, 11, 16, 15. Not getting anything crazy, not hitting 20, but in that 13 to 16 range. And then his target total since their week 10 bye, 6, 5, 9, 3, and 8. So that's where the pass catching work gets me excited. Philadelphia defense against running backs. Let's scope that real quick here. Points allowed versus running back. Eagles are
drum roll, please.
Eagles are 22nd. 22nd against the run. So I'm plugging in Saquon over Renfro.
All right. Let's get to the next one. Waller or keep Ertz. I mean, this to me is as simple as if Waller plays, you play him. If not, you play Ertz. And if you don't know by Saturday, I'd probably just play Ertz on that Saturday night game.
I think they're going to shut Waller down. That's my take.
I think so too. The fact, if they would have lost to Cleveland, I think it would have been done. They would have shut him down by now. But we'll see. All right, Lockett or Parker for this week, half PPR. If assuming Tyler Lockett's out there, that's the pick for me. We talked about that Miami game a little bit, low over under. Jalen Waddle's supposed to be back. You're hoping for the touchdown with Parker, but I'd go Tyler Lockett for that boom upside.
Yeah, I probably would too. Parker had that good game though. That's the thing. Parker becomes so interesting because you look at, granted, no Waddle. It was against the Jets, but 89% snaps, 8 targets, 68 yards and a touchdown. I like Parker honestly as a super low end flex this week.
Yeah.
But I think Lockett is a low-end wide receiver too. So you got to plug him in.
I want you to rank Parker and the other 2 players of the hour, Amon-Ra and Russell Gage, for me this week in a half PPR.
Oh, God. So it's Parker, Amon-Ra, and Gage. So Amon-Ra and Gage play each other. That Detroit-Atlanta game is surprisingly going to have fantasy pieces. I would probably go Amon-Ra, followed by Parker, followed by Gage. I like Gage, but they have a lot of weapons. Matt Ryan is looking pretty rough right now. I'd be worried that it's a Cordero Patterson game or a Mike Davis game or a Kyle Pitts game. Whereas in Detroit, it's either Jamal Williams or it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. In the passing game, it's definitely Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he leads that list for me. And then Parker, he's right there behind Waddle and Gesicki. So I'll go with him. And I like the upside of just the big play Parker.
Big play Parker. All right. Carlos says, thanks guys for the hard work and feedback all this season. Let's get some championships. Appreciate you, Carlos. And we'll get right into another question. If Kelsey is out, let's just stop for a second and say, hopefully this question doesn't matter because Kelsey plays. But Jared Cook or Cole Kmet, I'd probably go, let's see, Cole Kmet. Who did the Bears play? We just talked about the Bears.
Chicago plays Seattle.
I'd go Cole Kmet.
Me too. I think
the touchdown chance is pretty similar. Maybe give the slight edge to Cook, but Kmet gives you a better floor for sure.
And he's not going to get a touchdown. Kmet's just not going to get a touchdown. I think we know that, but especially if you're in a PPR league, the target totals are appealing. Last 4 weeks, 11, 7, 5, and 9 targets. So you'll take that all day. Jared Cook, he's seeing less targets than that, and he truly is touchdown reliant.
All right, stream Charger defense or keep it with the Pats. So Pats versus Buffalo, Chargers against what? Houston?
Yeah, I'm going
Chargers.
Chargers, easy.
All right, Big BS. What's good? Tough one
homie?
here. So we got to choose 3 full PPR. That's a big decision.
Ooh.
Foreman, Michel, Dillon, Rojo, CEH, Jeff Wilson. We get to choose 3. Well, let's think about this. I mean, we talked about Rojo, CEH, and Jeff Wilson earlier. We both had Rojo and Jeff in front of CEH. I would put both of those guys in front of Foreman. I'd put both of those guys in front of Dillon. So I'm probably going Sony, Rojo, and Jeff Wilson out of those 3.
Interesting. Henderson being back doesn't worry you too much?
No. Sony did still look to get most of the work. It was a tough game for the Rams as a whole.
McVay said they were going to ride the hot hand at running back, which he typically doesn't do, which is certainly concerning for Henderson.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, there is a chance that if Sony comes out first drive, isn't doing much, he's kind of getting stuffed, and Henderson pops for a play or 2, he could end up having the bigger game. So I guess with Sony Michel, there is some risk there, but it was 18 carries to 6. Sony had 2 receptions for 23 yards as well. Actually had a pretty solid game, 115 total yards from scrimmage. Had some usage in the passing game, no touchdown, but I'm leaning Sony there. With that elite offense for the Rams, I think Sony will get it done.
This one's tough, man. Jeff Wilson is definitely in for me. I like your Rojo takes. This might surprise you, but I think it's the clearest path to volume, which is all you can ask for between Dillon, Michel, and Foreman. For me, it's Foreman.
Yeah.
Foreman's
Foreman's been all
carry
right.
volume has been tremendous.
He's made some good plays too. He looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
He looks pretty good. His efficiency isn't anything crazy, but did have a game where he was running for 5.7 yards per carry against New England. 4.9 coming off a game against Pittsburgh. They're handing him the ball a lot.
22 for 108 against Pittsburgh. Also had 3 targets, 2 for 27 through the air. So
he looks to be their workhorse. Dontre Hilliard, who's also there, 9 carries and 6 targets. He's playing more of that, pass catching back role. Seems to be kind of like a really, 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 really bad version of Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb going on there, where one's going to get predominant carries, a few targets. One will get a lot of targets with a few carries peppered in. But I'll take Foreman, man. Foreman looks good, and he's their touchdown scorer.
All right, Qui-Gon. We really helped him out this season. First place in your league. For the first time they did fantasy. Let's go. Let's get that title, Qui-Gon. Let's get that title. Hopefully you're not facing Darth Maul in the semifinals. Too soon. But we'll keep it moving with – I don't know how to pronounce this. Steph, you got it.
Jilord, Palillo.
That's pretty good. So we got Jevante, Saquon, Henderson, Hollywood, DK, Diontae, OBJ. So we're setting a lineup here. First of all, Jilord, you just got to know. We'll throw out our takes, but you don't have to listen to us. If you got conviction about somebody, don't just listen to what we tell you. We're just going to give you the information that we have and break it down. And for me, you need 2 running backs. That's easy for me. It's Jevante and Saquon over Darrell Henderson. So that's done. At the receiver spot, Diontae is in. No questions asked. So now, to me, it comes down to 1 receiver and 1 flex between Henderson, Hollywood, DK, and Odell.
DK makes the cut for me. This Odell thing, man.
I'd go with Odell. I'd play Odell. Tough game this week, but
to see him bust against Seattle was so depressing after this tear he's been on since week 12 with 10 targets, 5 and 7 targets, touchdown for 3 straight weeks, comes out and burns against Seattle. But we like the matchup against Minnesota. I think Odell's going to bounce back, probably going to get a touchdown. So yeah, it's Odell and DK, like you said.
Yep. Yeah. Hollywood. I just can't trust
Hollywood's
him right
scary
now.
with Bateman back, with Lamar.
And I'm not really considering Darrell right now. I'm avoiding Henderson if I can. He's a backup right now.
He's a 1
Diggs against Pat's D with a bad weather condition. CD, AB, and Mike Evans. So I'm going with Diggs. I don't think I don't know what the weather report is like. I mean, we're still 5 days out from the game, so it's hard for us to really know. If it's wind like it was last time, if it's that bad and it's going to be 3 pass attempts for New England and it's going to be that rough, you don't start Diggs. But if it's just cold, if there's some wintry mix, whatever it is, like I'm still fine starting Stephon Diggs. Raining, yeah, I'll play Diggs in the rain. I'm not worried about that.
Is Evans even an option this week? I don't know. I
think Evans is going to. I'm not starting Evans this week, so
if he plays,
I'd go Diggs. I'd go Diggs. If it's Diggs or CD or AB, I'm probably going to lean Diggs and then CD and then AB. So
I think this is a prime game for AB to have a low snap share, but go 4 for 6 for 50 and a touchdown. That's the game it feels like against Carolina. So I like AB.
All right. Forgive Jonah. Pick 2, Freeman, Penny, Devante Parker, Samaje, or Jeff. We've hit on these guys a lot, so I think Jeff Wilson is the one we can lock in over the other names. And then I'd probably go Devante Parker. If Mixon is out, it's Perine for me. If Mixon is in, it's Devante Parker.
You don't like Freeman against Cincinnati?
No.
Yeah, that last week, it was kind of like the Odell Beckham thing. Like he was on a tear, and then last week, and it kind of scares you. Only saw 6 carries, didn't get the passing game work.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I'm with you.
It's tough, and I mean, you don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback as of now, so wait and see. I don't think it makes that much of a difference with Devante Freeman for me. The thing that scares me more is that Latavius Murray saw more carries than Freeman last week. So if they're going to get Latavius worked up again, then you can't start either of those guys. All right, Herbert and Cousins or Lamar and Allen. Which group would I take? I would take Lamar and Josh Allen. Although I love Herbert this week against Houston. Actually, I don't know.
This one's tough, man. Lamar questionable. Allen against New England, potentially the rough weather game.
I'm taking Herbert and Cousins. Yeah, I'm actually going to switch my answer. It doesn't feel good, but I'll switch my answer. I'll take Herbert and Cousins.
Agreed.
All right, Saints or 49ers? D. Saints against the Dolphins, 49ers against Tennessee. I think I'm going to go with the Niners.
Yeah. To me, it comes down to, is A.J. Brown back?
Yes.
He could be called up from the IR any minute now. If A.J. Brown plays, then I'll go Saints. If he doesn't, then I'll take 49ers. Tennessee can't move the ball downfield, even if they are giving Foreman 15 carries a game and he's running efficiently, because that passing game is brutal. It's like Anthony Ferkster and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and
Nick Westbrook-Hyena and the gang. All right, one more question here in the chat from Carlos. How are our seasons going? No one ever asks. Well, it's been a great year on my side. I'm in 3 leagues. I'm in the semifinals in each and every one. Had a nail biter last night in Steph and I's long-running competitive home league. I had Najee, Alvin Kamara, Mike Evans, and Amari Cooper combined for 14 points. But with Hunter Henry as a tight end stream, with Stafford, with Chubb, I was able to pull out a 1-point victory and make it to the semifinals there. So things are looking good. Hoping to get into some titles here next week. Steph, what about you?
Yeah, I'm actually pulling up my underdog results right now. I know I'm about to double my money, which feels fantastic. I'm sitting top 3 in a lot of these underdog drafts that you and I were smashing in prep for the season. If you guys want to keep rocking with us, we'll get into those. And I love that pre-draft season because you can take advantage of rookies. Yeah. You can take advantage of projections going into the new year. Guys that we were really high on, like DeAndre Swift, have paid off for us. Grabbing Amon-Ra St. Brown super late has paid off for you. Names like Christian Kirk that we were higher on the consensus have paid off for us and have led to some money in a lot of these leagues. Unfortunately, Miles Sanders is probably the biggest blunder I had an underdog, but even he's catching fire right now. So underdog is been where I've made the most money this year. Probably my worst year of DraftKings. DFS has just been brutal for me time and time again. I just call the wrong guys on the wrong week. I'm 1 for 4 as far as fantasy football playoffs. Injuries and COVID just decimated a lot of those rosters. In one league, I tried to go 0 running back, which is not characteristic of me. I'm a running back hoarder 9 times out of 10, but in this particular league, it's a keeper league. I had Devante Adams. All the running backs were gone. I said, screw it. Let's go Calvin Ridley. Let's go with and then let's just take a bunch of names late. Let's go with Gus Edwards. You know how that went. Let's go with Trey Sermon for the 0 running back roster construction. Just didn't work out, and that roster took a nosedive pretty quickly. But I'm fighting in a few spots right now in the Dynasty League. I'm really excited about our DMS Dynasty League. Just got a dub in there. Shout out to
Steph and I are on a crash course to play each other in the finals in our DMS Dynasty League. So we'll see if it happens.
I just need Joe Mixon to be healthy. Jevante Williams has been clutch for me in that league. Amon-Ra St. Brown is in the lineup right now. And hopefully we get a big week from either McLaurin or Gallup in that league. But I'm pretty pumped up about this DMS Dynasty League. If y'all want to join leagues with us, hit up the Discord channel. There's a spot in there. It's called Join a DMS League. Hop in there, throw your name in, let us know that you're interested. We're doing mostly Dynasty leagues in there just because it's brutal to do waivers and set lineups every single week in redraft. But if you want to play Dynasty with us, maybe you're new to Dynasty, you want to learn more, hop on that Discord.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Steph, I'm glad you brought up underdog. I want to talk about one of my underdog lineups. So I was in the puppy tournament, 120,000 entries. how it works is weeks 1 through 14 is the regular season of best ball. The top 2 advance. So weeks 1 through 14, I had this specific roster advance. So we go from 120,000, we're down to 20,000. The next 3 weeks are eliminations. It's pools of 18. Only the top 2 out of 18 advance. This specific roster made it out of that round as well. So we're now from 120,000 down to 2,000. I'm in another pool of 18. I need to be in the top 2 to win this week. In an underdog, you can be decimated by injuries because you're drafting so early. But I want to talk through this roster. At quarterback, I've got Lamar Jackson and Daniel Jones. I advanced last week with a 0 in my quarterback spot, which is an absolute miracle. But if Lamar's back this week, even just with a floor performance, I'm feeling pretty good about that. At the running back spot, you start 2. 1 could be a flex. Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Melvin Gordon, and Michael Carter. So I'm feeling great there, especially with Eckler and Chubb. Hopefully Gordon or Carter can get me in that flex spot. At wide receiver, I got Cooper Kupp, obviously the one who's putting the team on his back. But I also have Tyler Lockett. I need him back this week. I have Brandon Cooks, who's been fantastic. And a lot of these stashes I had late in this draft are paying off. Rashad Bateman was out for the first several weeks. I picked him up late, and he could get in my lineup this week. Who knows? I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have Russell Gage. And even Jalen Reagor and Darius Slayton. Who knows? Maybe they'll hit a deep ball. So I'm feeling great at the wide receiver spot as well. And at tight end, Dan Arnold's out for season, but I have Rob Gronkowski and Zach Ertz. So this is a lineup I'm excited about. I'll keep everyone posted on if that advances. And if I advance this week, I'm in the final, the last 200 and some odd people. And that's where it's pretty much just 1 week DFS. And if you end up in the top, you're winning thousands of dollars. So still got a long way to go, still a long shot. But that's the lineup I got circled right now on Underdog.
I love it. Underdog's so fun. We're not like partner with them or anything. I'm just telling you all, like, if you're serious about fantasy, get in there.
The bad thing about Underdog is a lot of the best ball winnings I've already had, like even making it to some of these semifinals and quarterfinals in these tournaments. I made a regular season cash out of a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there. I just spent all that on pick'ems and lost it all. So It's so fun to pick'ems on there. It wasn't a lot. I mean, for advancing in some of these, like $5 or something. So I got like $40 back in my account. I'm like, oh, I got to get some pick'ems on these games. And then, of course, week 15 happened and nothing happened like we expected it to. So a lot of that went down the drain. But who knows? We still got a lot of season-long underdogs in play, still hoping for a pretty big cash out at the end of the year. So it's been a fun year. It's going to be a fun last couple of weeks as well. We'll see.
It's championship season. 2 weeks left. If you guys want to spend some time thinking about how you should be thinking about waivers, how you should be stashing players. And Alex, we can talk about that real quickly here, but we did release a playoff primer. We went over some of the hottest schedules for the next couple weeks. So definitely go check that out on our channel. But you should be stashing guys in week in advance. Go ahead. If you have room on your roster, go ahead and grab a defense for the championship. That way, if you make it, you're not scrambling trying to win that money. You know, most leagues, really all you care about is winning it all. I know a lot of leagues will have a payout for second of some sort. Maybe you get your money back. But that's not what we're shooting for here. We're shooting on making big money, winning these prize pots. So stash guys so we can advance, get ready for that championship week. We could talk about some of those defenses. We'll probably do that next week here on the show. But go ahead and look at some of those matchups. If you see somebody against, Jacksonville, New York Jets.
Pick up the Bucks. Bucks play Carolina this week, the Jets next week. If they're out there, get them.
Yep, great point there. Get your high-value handcuffs. If you're riding with Nick Chubb right now, get to Ernest Johnson. If you have Joe Mixon, get Samaje Perine, just so you have insurance. They may not even be guys that you start, but in a desperation situation, in a COVID outbreak, you want to make sure you at least have that insurance policy so you're not sitting there with a goose egg when a game's on Monday night or gets pushed back to Tuesday and you don't have anything in that lineup and you need points.
For sure. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's just the reality of what we're dealing with right now with these COVID outbreaks. So to me, if I've got players in the Monday night matchup, for example, this week I have Kamara on Monday night. Right now I have him in my flex spot. I have a waiver claim in. Hopefully whoever I'm going against in this specific league isn't listening. I have a waiver claim in right now for Marquise Callaway, not because I think Callaway's a league winner, not because I think he has crazy upside, but the worst thing that could happen is to get to Monday night and to need something from Kamara and have something related to COVID happen to where he's out for that game. I want some sort of decent replacement option. Don't wait till the last minute. Do that kind of contingency planning if you can. But Steph, before we sign off, I don't want to miss anybody. Ramel, Morel.
What's up, Ramel?
Hurts or Burrow, Hunter Henry or Cole Kmet. It's easy for me. It's Hurts and Hunter Henry.
Yep, I think I'm with you there.
Awesome. And then one more, Michael Carter or Tony Pollard. Pollard,
That's a
the
tough
Cowboys.
one, man.
The Cowboys play the Washington football team. I don't know who the Jets play. Jets Jacksonville. Is that right?
Yep.
I'm probably
Michael
going Pollard.
Carter. I was in on Michael Carter last week against Miami. He's back from IR. I thought he was going to get the full workload, but he wasn't. They eased him in. 44% snap share, only 8 carries, did see 2 targets. You love Michael Carter because he's the pass catching back there, and they're in losing game scripts a lot. But I think they're still ramping him up, and he's splitting it with 3 guys, whereas Pollard just has Zeke to worry about. So, yeah, I'm Team Pollard on this one. The Washington football team matchup should be great. We just didn't see it from Dallas 2 weeks ago. So I'm going back to with all these Dallas weapons.
All right. Well, Steph, that's going to do it from us. If you want to keep the conversation going, if you are watching this after the live stream is over, join that Discord. We'll be in there answering start-sit questions, key strategy questions as we get towards these championships. We wish everyone a very, very happy holidays and a happy new year. You're going to continue to hear from us through the rest of the season, through the offseason as well. But thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Get these titles.